Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the April 2nd meeting of the Columbia Rotary Club, the Spring Break Edition. Glad to have you all here. We're going to get started with our national anthem with Rusty DePass and Jim Smithwick. Thank you, and I'm going to ask President-elect Stephen Creed. She's going to lead us in our invocation.
Thank you, President Carey. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you had a good Easter. So it certainly was a pretty day for it. Let's pause for a moment. Dear Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this beautiful spring day and the opportunity to gather with friends at the Columbia Rotary Club. We thank you for this Easter season and the promise that it brings for our eternal life. We ask your blessings on this club, its members, and our families and friends. We pray for those in this club who are struggling right now, and we ask that you help us to be mindful of their needs, as well as the ideals of Rotary, and to remember the importance of service to others in our daily lives. Please bless this food and use it to nourish and strengthen us. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Amen.
All right, welcome everybody. Glad to have you here today. While Miss Ellen makes her way up here at some point, Miss Ellen, she can't hear me. She's still over there talking. Cindy, can I ask you to do me a quick favor and switch over to the other presentation? I forgot to do it before I came up here. Robin, can you ask Miss Ellen to come up here? Are you going to do it? She's coming? Okay. Yes, can y'all hear Robin? You want a microphone? Okay.
She's making her way here,
everybody.
Everybody wants to talk to Ellen. She's making her way here. Here she comes. I apologize for running late. I have the latest information on Paul Harris as to your status. So if you all are interested, which I'm sure you are, that you'll check with me and I can give you exactly where you are numerically, where you are with that, and also the number of points that you have. So see me at some point. I'll be here afterwards as well. Thanks.
Good afternoon. I hope it was a happy Easter, happy Passover weekend for you. Beautiful, magnificent day out there. And we have 3 visiting Rotarians who are not strangers to us. I hope that all of them are in the witness. They'll be here if they're not. Butch Wallace from Casey, has he made his way? You know Butch. Joe Wilson, he's trying to make it. There he is. Hi, Butch. We're always glad to have you. And the Congress is glad to have him. And Tommy Phelps from Columbia Capital. Tommy.
You're right. Thank you.
This is the beginning of a week, it's the beginning of a month, and it's the beginning of a season, in a way, springtime. And I hope that that each of us will renew as beautifully as nature has done. So remember that and have a good week.
Does anybody have guests? I know we've got some guests here today. Does anybody want to come up and grab this microphone? Richard? All right.
Hey everybody, my guest is Mira Bonsley. Mira is Miss Gamecock 2018. She's a senior at the University of South Carolina, a multimedia journalism major. She is fluent in 5 languages, and she's the recipient of the 2014 Lexington Rotary Scholarship. She'll represent Carolina fans and students this summer at the Miss South Carolina pageant. So welcome.
I'm Glenn Matthews, and with me I have Jeff Lawler. He's a realtor over at Coldwell Banker, and he told me that this is the last time he's going to be a guest because he's joining in a week or two.
I'm Jim Morris with the South Carolina Council on Economic Education, and I have my guest, Nikki Hutchison. She is the Associate Director for AARP.
I have 2 wonderful guests with me. They're with the Salvation Army boat. We have Mr. Mark Barrett, who is our Director of Development, Resource Development. And we have Ms. Sarah Newcomb, who is, her title is very long, Public Relations, Volunteer, and Disaster Coordinator. Welcome them.
Do we have any more guests? Did you want to introduce yours now? Okay, all right.
Thank you very much. It's my privilege to have several guests this afternoon. First, I'll start with Jay Darby. Jay is Director of Marketing and Communications for Palmetto College, USC. Second, Connie Weiss. Connie is Director of the Fort Jackson Center at Fort Palmetto College at USC. You've already met Tommy Phelps from the Capitol Rotary Club, and First Sergeant Danielle Howard from Fort Jackson. You'll hear more from them a little later. Thank you.
We're glad to have you here. Are you ready, John? I'd like to ask past President John Backus to come up. He's going to give us a quick golf update and also remind you that the cart buckets are on the table, so fill them up, write your check. Yep, thank you for holding that up. All right, I'm going to give it over to John.
Good afternoon. It's good to be back here to have a chance to chat with you for a minute today. I'd like to find out how many people here play golf. How many people actually know how to play golf? And I don't care what level you can play, but how many actually know how to play? Okay, all right. Some of you may play like I do, and that is you can't hit 2 good shots in a row, but that's okay. Some of you may play like Rusty does, where you can't hit 1 good shot in a row. But the neat thing about him is he comes and plays in our tournament every year, and he has fun, and I have fun, and we all have fun, because it doesn't really matter how well you play. You've got to understand there will be a few sandbaggers out there who win the tournament, so everybody else just is there to have a good time. And so it does not matter whether you're a good player or not a good player. We need you to come play. We need you to invite friends to come play. We need to get you to invite business associates to play. There are 2 reasons that we do this tournament every year. One is it's about the most fun social thing that we do in the club. It is a great time. Everybody who's there has fun, I will guarantee that. But the other reason, and probably the most important reason we do it, is to raise money for our service project. And we are planning a service project for the early part of next year, or not next Rotary year, the end of this year, calendar year, early part of our next Rotary year. And we need to raise some money to be able to do that service project. And so it takes 2 things. It takes people playing, it takes people inviting other people to play, and it takes sponsors. The sponsors are where we really raise the money. So if you're like me, you might want to try to get your business to put a little bit of money in. My business can ill afford to do too much in the way of sponsorship, so what I do is I put half of my $500 sponsorship in from the company and half from me. And I'm sure there's some others of you who could do that. There are probably some others of you who could do the same thing with $1,000 sponsorship. And we need that help because the sponsorship's really where we raise the money to do our service projects. So if you would, please think carefully about that. Please think about the importance of our service project in the community and see if there isn't some way you can provide sponsorship. And I'm serious about $250, $500, or $1,000 sponsorship. A number of people signed up for $100 sponsorships, but we really need to raise more money than that. So I ask that you carefully consider it. It's very important to our club. If you care about the club, you'll help us fund our service project for the latter part of this year. Thank you very much.
And for those of you who refuse to make eye contact with me when I get up here and talk about the golf tournament, I have made note of who you are, and I'll be calling you. All right. We've got a very special presentation today, and I'm going to ask Major Henry Morris to come up from the Salvation Army, and we're going to talk about bell ringing. Remember, we all did bell ringing a few months ago, and we're going to hear, I guess, the numbers of how we did. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you for allowing me just to take this time and just to thank you for all that you've done to help raise money. As you know, I'm Major Morris, and we want to take this time just to say thank you for participating in the bell ringing this past Christmas season. The Columbia Rotary rang at 3 locations this year, which was the Walmart in Forest Drive, and the Greens on Assembly, and Piggly Wiggly on Divine Street. Everyone that participated did an incredible job, but 3 captains participated, particularly led the groups. They led the, but we have a lot of captains, but there were 3 captains here that led the groups, and they had top amounts that day. And I'm going to ask them if they will come up, if they're here, and I have a little presentation to give them. And Miss Sarah probably can help me with this. First, I'm going to ask Mr. Stephen Screech. He was the captain for the Greens for a day, and his group raised $572.89. You want the box? Yeah, sure. And I'm going to ask Mr. Rusty. Yes. Mr. Rusty, here he comes, all right. He was the captain of the Piggly Wiggly one, and he raised they raised $595.40. And then we had another one at the Walmart, Miss Libby. Miss Libby asked her to come up. And she was the captain for the Walmart one, and they raised $887.16. And then in there with Miss Libby, I want you to know, we'd like to give a special shout out to Miss Libby because she organized the Columbia Rotary's bell ringing for this year, making sure that everything ran smoothly, and we just want to thank her for that as well. I know that wasn't easy, so we want to thank her for that. But I want to share with you the overall. Overall, Columbia Rotary raised a total of $9,150.64. And that is truly incredible, and you should give yourself a huge round of applause. At this time, I'm going to turn it to Miss Sarah. She's going to recognize other captains.
Hi guys. Well, all of the captains that led groups did an amazing job to help the Columbia Rotary reach their grand total. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through the rest of the captains, and if you guys just want to come up and grab a little something really quick. But Meredith Atkinson, Nathan Ballantyne, Russ Bell, Blake Buchanan, Carl Byers, Wade Carlisle, Andrew Clarkson, okay, Catherine Davis, okay. Danny Garnett, perfect. Bariva Harris, Tom Jackson, Matt Kennel, Lane Ligon, Lane Ligon, Sandra Owensby, Elliot Powell, Carrie Powers, Randolph Shives, Jack Sloan, and Hal Stevenson. Well, all of these captains and everyone else that rang the bell truly are helping us do the most good here in the Midlands and are helping those who are underserved in our community in the Midlands all year round. So if you rang the bell this season, we just want to ask you to stand up and give yourselves a huge round of applause.
All right, thanks to everybody who rang the bell this season. We always enjoy doing that, so we appreciate you, Major Morris, and all that you guys do in our community. All right, moving on to Health and Happiness, we have the wonderful Bob Borum, who's going to come up and entertain us for a few minutes.
Well, it is springtime. Spring is a time for new beginnings. We see that really all nature around us responds to that primal urge to begin again. And that's what Easter's about, really. It's about new life. Yesterday was Easter. Church is full. Some of you may attend the church where there's a special time in the worship service just for children. I don't know if you do or not. Where the children come down, the pastor has a few things to say to them. In my days as an active minister, I have learned that that's a really precarious time. It's kind of tricky. This didn't happen to me, but it is a true story. It was on an Easter Sunday, and the minister called for all the children to come down front. And they sat on the steps leading up to the pulpit area, and the minister looked at all the children. He had a microphone. He was talking to them and said, You children look so nice today, all dressed up in your Easter outfits. And he said to this little boy, said, that's really a nice suit. You look so handsome in that suit and that white shirt and that necktie. And the little boy just beamed, and the little boy's parents were so happy to see all the attention he was getting. Then he turned to the little girl and he said to her, that is an absolutely gorgeous Easter dress, so pretty. Just look at you, just all those bows and all those frills and all those pleats and all that lace. And her parents, who were sitting in the second row, just beamed because they were so proud of all the attention she was getting. And the minister turned to the little girl and he asked her a question. He said, that is your Easter dress? And she said, yeah. And he said, it is so pretty. She said, thank you. And he said, do you really like your pretty new Easter dress? And she said, yes, I do. And he said, does your mama like that Easter dress? And he gave her the microphone and said, I like this Easter dress, but my mama says it's a damn bitch to iron. You never get a kid a microphone. This young guy had been in the Army for not very long. He was still a private, and one day while he was cleaning up the barracks, he cut his hand, and it was bleeding. And he went to the sergeant. The sergeant looked at it and said, "You need to go to the infirmary." So he walked down to the infirmary, and when he got to the infirmary, there was a table out front, a little sign on the table that said, "Fill out the forms, and when you filled out the forms, please enter the door." And he filled out the forms, and he entered the door, and he found himself in a large room. And at the end of the room, there were two doors. And one was marked male, and the other was marked female. And he walked through the door marked male, and he found himself in a large room. And down at the end of the room, there were two doors, and one was marked officers, and one was marked enlisted personnel. He was just a private, so he walked through the door marked enlisted personnel, and he found himself in a large room. And down at the end of the room, there were two doors, and one was marked accident, and the other was marked illness. Well, this was an accident. He walked through the door marked accident. He found himself in a large room. Down at the end of the room, there were two doors, and one was marked internal, one was marked external, and this was on his hand. He walked through the door marked external, and he found himself in a large room. Down at the end of the room, there were two doors, and one was marked major, and one was marked minor, and well, it wasn't just much, just a wound on his hand, and he walked through the door marked minor, and he found himself out on the street. And he walked back to the barracks, and his sergeant said to him, "Well, son, they take good care of you?" He said, "You know, they didn't do me one bit of good, but they sure were well organized." Now, what's the point of all that? What's the point of all that? Now, the question that each one of us as individuals, as well as the Rotary Club, needs to answer in this life is not, were you well organized? Or were you successful? Or have we made a lot of money? Or do we have a big new house? Or do we have a lot of prestige? The question that all of us as individuals and as a club need to answer is simply this: have you done anybody any good? Thank you, that's all.
You. All right, moving right along. Ms. Dot, you want to come on up and ask Dot Ryle to come up and introduce Susan for us.
Happy day after Easter. I have the privilege and pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, who is also one of us, a Rotarian. Susan Elkins came to us here in Columbia at the University of South Carolina in 2013. Is that correct? And in 2013, most of you know that I'm kind of called the art lady. And so I had gone to Harris Facides and said, we need to put art on the campus. And he agreed, so he said, Dot, go find it and then come home and find the money for it. So there are times that I will call Harris and say, we need to take a field trip. So I had called and got on his schedule to take him on a field trip because I wanted to take him out to Statesburg to meet an artist who does incredible work, Rachel McCoy. And even though he's a Clemson person, he also cares about Carolina, and because both of those schools, we collaborate together, it was fine for Harris to meet a wonderful artist from our neighboring college. So we head to the woods, and on the way, when I pick Harris up in my car, I drive, and we have goodie bags that I prepare, and so he starts in his goodie bag, and we head for the country. And so he said, Dot, I hope you don't mind if you drive back by yourself. And I said, oh, I don't mind. Why are we doing that? Am I going to leave you over there in the woods? And he said, well, no, but I have a driver coming to pick me up around 4:30 because we have a speaking engagement in Sumter at 5. I said, that's perfect. So we find our way to Statesburg. It's on a plantation way out in the country in a beautiful setting and an incredible artist. And so we are having a grand time. We've been there a couple hours, and Harris is looking out the window of the studio, and he said, oh, my driver's here. So we go out to say goodbye, and he said, let me get my goodie bag out of your car. And the driver is Susan Elkins. And I am he had not mentioned this. And I normally expect the van with the USC driver. And I said, oh, well, Harris, who is this? And he said, she is new, and she's heading up our Palmetto College. And I wanted you to meet her, and because we could coordinate the speaking engagement, we can meet here and you can meet her. Well, we met that day. 2 weeks later, University Associates. I go to my table, and there's Susan. And so since that time, Susan and I are together quite a lot. We have become very good friends. And so when Stephen Creech asked me if I would introduce her today, I come to you with a personal friend that I'm introducing, and it is just a great pleasure to do this. You can see us in restaurants all around town. Carol Matthews has been in the group, and I have friends that we all get together, professional women that can sit and talk about their careers and share knowledge with each other and build wonderful friendships. And Susan is one of those who has joined in this community like she has been here forever. Susan comes from Tennessee, and you'll understand that when you hear her speak if you haven't heard her, because she does have that Tennessee twang or accent, and it's lovely. Susan grew up in rural Tennessee. Her husband is one of those super jocks, former athlete, retired at 52, and he is on the homestead in Tennessee, where his parents, her parents, all had farms. They grew up together. They have one child. He is a doctor, a radiologist, finishing his residency, in Louisville, Kentucky, and next year will move on to Pittsburgh, where he will be working toward his specialty, which will be sports radiology. He is married to, his name is Andy. He's married to Kelly, and they have 2 children that call Susan Mimi. She has little Maddox at 5, and then guess what happened after she got here? She had Sweet Caroline. And I think that's indicative of what this state means to her and what that child means to her. So Sweet Caroline is the youngest one, and they had a wonderful day together yesterday. And let me tell you a little bit. Susan was the mother of this one child. Education has always been extremely important to her. So she worked and went to school, got her degree. She taught school, and you will not believe, but she's a retired public school teacher, which is hard to believe because she's so young and beautiful and vital and vibrant and all of those things, and so passionate about education, particularly in the field that she is in. She taught and is retired after 35 years of teaching, and now has an opportunity to have a whole new career. They are Gamecocks. Now, Susan lives here and she commutes home. Most weekends, if she's not traveling or giving speeches around the state or the country. 6-hour drive there, 6-hour drive back. And she doesn't leave till after work on Friday, and she's back here on Sunday night. But when they're home football games, you better believe that Tommy is here in Columbia going to these sports events with Susan. He is a Gamecock, correct, Susan? And he has gotten that spirit that is so wonderful, and they share that together. Plus, it gives him time to come to Columbia and get to know us, and then also keep the home fires burning back in Tennessee. Susan had got her education from the Tennessee Technical University. She has an undergraduate degree from there, her master's, and then her doctorate came from Vanderbilt. She worked as a dean at the Tennessee Technical University, having worked in other positions before then. Susan serves on boards all around the country, and they are assorted. There are different kinds of boards, from human services to education, to things that matter. She loves Rotary. She was president of her Rotary Club in Cookeville, Tennessee. You might remember, John Backus can tell you, that we had the international president of Rotary here for our 100th anniversary, and that was thanks to Susan, because she knew him. She has also worked with the district of Rotary, and she was district governor-elect when she came to us. So as a Rotarian, as an educator, and as a person, she belongs to the Church of Christ, has a wonderful family with rural roots, which is the all-American family and the dream of education that she is sharing around the country. She is foremost in that field, and you're going to feel her passion as she speaks to you today. So please honor and welcome our fellow Rotarian, my very dear friend, Susan Elkins.
Thank you so much, Dot. It's great to be with you this afternoon to share the good news story of the University of South Carolina's Palmetto College. There's a whole lot that can be said, but I think our health and happiness, Bob really said the bottom line when he summed up his remarks by saying, what really matters is, have you done anything for anybody during this life? What have you done? What have you done when you've left this world? So Bob, thank you for this great lead-in to the story of the University of South Carolina's Palmetto College. And I've already introduced a couple of guests to that. Connie Bass, Jay Darby. I'm thrilled to have two Palmetto College students with us that we've already introduced. The most important thing that you'll hear today is the two of them speak when I finish giving a little bit of a summary. There's nothing better than hearing from students what something means to them. Now, as we get started, let me ask you a question. You know, nobody from no faculty member, no teacher would ever let you get off without doing homework, right? So, how many of you know somebody who started the college and, you know, life just got in the way and they weren't quite able to finish? Anybody in here know somebody who started the college and life got in the way? They had to get a job, somebody got sick, they got married, they had kids, they weren't able to finish. Well, the good news is more hands went up for that than the number of golfers in the room. So, John, we've at least got lots of people who have some potential here to make A's on this assignment. Because as I tell you about the University of South Carolina's Palmetto College, what I want you to do is think about whose life can you help change because you help them to fulfill their dreams. So real quickly, let me tell you about the University of South Carolina's Palmetto College that will be celebrating its 5th anniversary on April 18th, and then I'll conclude in about 15 minutes and we'll hear from our two students. All right, look at this first slide. Shortly after I arrived, the state newspaper had this article that just so vividly reminded me of what I was doing here. The headlines were, "Declining income, rising poverty, plagues South Carolina." Declining income, rising poverty, plagues South Carolina. There are a couple of bullets there that are kind of hard to read, so I've blown them up for you on the next slide. Those bullets said, median family income fell 10.9% between 2000 and 2012, or a little over $5,000 less per year. And it also said that 18.3% of South Carolina was living in poverty, compared to 14% in 2000. Nearly 300,000 more people in this state living in poverty than 10 years before. So the key question in that article was, how does the state bring back its lost wealth? And the answer from one of our Wells Fargo economists was, you gotta do two things. Number one, you need to diversify job growth. But number two, you need to improve the quality of education available in this state. Improve the quality of education available in this state. Now, less than probably a month ago, we had the Citadel president standing right here. And one of his key messages was, you know, we were recently named 50th by the U.S. News and World Report on education in this state. We've got to do something about it. So this article also said that areas of the state with a high number of college graduates are generally seeing solid income growth. So college graduates help raise income levels, among a multitude of other positive things. So what is Palmetto College and the University of South Carolina trying to do to address this problem? So you'll see that the mission of the University of South Carolina Palmetto College is to create more accessible, affordable, and flexible bachelor's degrees for all South Carolinians. I was so excited to be able to come here to work with Harris Fastides and the entire University of South Carolina team to make education from the USC accessible, affordable, and flexible to all South Carolinians. Now let me tell you a little bit about why that's important again. Somebody with a bachelor's degree in this state, if you have a bachelor's degree in this state versus an associate's degree, that's about $15,000 more a year. Now, $15,000 more a year is a lot of money to probably about anybody, but you think about a single mother raising 3 or 4 kids with 2 or 3 jobs. So what does $15,000 a year mean to somebody like that? You know, you might could actually quit one of those jobs and have time to do homework with your kids. Do a lot better job. So $15,000 a year for a bachelor's degree in South Carolina, and then over a lifetime, that bachelor's degree means about $1 million. About $1 million more over lifetime earnings over an associate's degree. So that bachelor's degree is extremely important. So now let me tell you how the University of South Carolina is doing this. Now everybody in this room is familiar with Columbia. It's great to have Miss Gamecock with us today, great to have her with us. But the University of South Carolina is much more than just USC Columbia. There are 8 campuses around the state. You see them on the screen. There are 4 two-year campuses in small rural areas, Lancaster, Salkehatchie, Sumter, and Union. Those 4 two-year campuses are now called Palmetto College campuses. And then the newfangled thing that I came to really help launch was online bachelor's degree completion programs. And those programs are offered by the 4 four-year campuses in the USC system. So you've got Columbia, along with Aiken, Beaufort, and Upstate. So the 8-campus system is all working together as the foundation of Palmetto College to make those degrees more accessible, affordable, and flexible. Now, look at these maps for the next from the state to think about where bachelor's degrees are so needed. Now, you can't read all the fine print, but I will tell you that red is bad and green is good. And it doesn't take but a glance to figure out that most of the state is red or orange. This is a national study that talks about critical needs for education, county by county, in the whole country. And here's how South Carolina looks. Far more red than green. And if you'll look at the next map, actually gives the educational attainment levels by county. Again, red, those counties with 5 to less than 10% bachelor's degree attainment. Less than 10%, those 2 reds. And if it weren't for public school teachers in those rural areas, there'd be much fewer numbers of bachelor's degrees. So you can see there's lots of work to be done. Now again, back to the solution with USC. The next map shows you the footprint of USC's campuses all around the state. Now, I remind you, there is no other system of higher education in this state other than the USC system. So with all these 8 campuses around the state, multiple locations, coupled with online degrees, it's our natural mechanism for getting to citizens everywhere across this state. Now, the next slide gives you just a little bit of a quick overview of our Palmetto College campuses. We have those 4 campuses that I mentioned earlier. Lancaster has just under 2,000 students. The other 3 have approximately 1,000. So there's about 5,000 students served in those rural areas that might not otherwise have access to education. But most importantly, we go to the next slide. The quality of USC Online is the story that I want to tell you. And you might recognize the person in this photo. If you need to look real carefully at the person at the end of the table, it's also the person you see in this photo. This was taken from an article that he did in the Columbian magazine. So instead of me telling the story of Tommy Phelps, I'll let him tell you that as we conclude. But Palmetto College Online actually started with 7 online bachelor's degree programs, and you can see those listed. They were degrees that are in high demand for the workforce. So we started with elementary education, liberal studies, and organizational leadership, all offered by USC Columbia. By USC Aiken, the bachelor's in business degree. USC Beaufort offered a bachelor's degree in human services. And USC Upstate offered a degree in criminal justice, and one of the other really high demand degrees, and that's the RN to BSN. So we launched in 2013, fall of 2013, with those 7 online degree programs. Well, last year we doubled that number of degree programs. So we added 7 more in information science, health promotion, hospitality management, information management and systems, along with accounting, special education, and health informatics. So we now have 14 online degree programs that are accessible, affordable, and flexible for citizens all around this state. So the question is, how are we doing? So the next slide will show you that we've offered over 1,000 online courses. We've had over 28,000 enrollments in those over 1,000 courses. We've actually had over 2,900 students majoring in those 14 degree programs. You know, we have some students just taking online courses with us because they need it for the schedule, but nearly 3,000 are majors in those 14 degree programs. This semester we have over 1,000 enrolled, and the most important stat I can share with you is that we have now graduated over 1,000 students in that short period of time with bachelor's degrees who might not otherwise have had the opportunity to do so. Now, the next slide just gives you some numbers. I'm not going to go into this, but it shows you the progress with all these different majors over time. We started, I will read the first line, we started in the fall of 18, with 28 students in the business degree. And last fall we had 135, and we've graduated many out of that program. So that can show you the progress in all those different majors. Now, another very important fact is the map of the state of South Carolina. And I'm pleased to let you know that students from every county in the state have been enrolled in Palmetto College. Every county in the state. It took us a while to get somebody from McCormick. So many times I was begging for relatives in McCormick. But we now have one in McCormick. We could use 2 if anybody knows anybody in McCormick. But it's wonderful to have students in every county of the state enrolled in Palmetto College. Now, as we begin to wind down, the next slide shows you some photos of some students. I'll tell you a little bit about these 5, but we're getting close to hearing from our students who are live with us today. So we'll mention the first one in the trooper uniform was our spokesperson when we launched this degree at the State House in the spring of 2013. DJ Braun had been stationed in Allendale. He said there wasn't much to do down there, so he decided to go to school. So he took some classes at USC Salkehatchie. He was transferred then over to Lawrence, finished an associate's degree at Lawrence, then enrolled in the criminal justice degree. As soon as we launched it, graduated with a bachelor's degree in December, and he has now traded in his uniform for a magistrate's robe. That magistrate's robe could not have been possible without the bachelor's degree in criminal justice. So DJ was our spokesperson when we started. I'll just quickly mention these other folks in the photos. Lashinda Demas is an Olympic silver medalist, finished her degree while she was training for the Olympics in California. Up to in the right-hand corner, Tammy Ward is a grandmother who graduated with a 4.0 and now works in our Student Success Center at USC Union helping other students to earn the degree. Ryan West would have been here with us today. He's in the National Guard, stationed at Bluff Road, but he had to be out of town. And then, one of our most special graduates is the gentleman in the center, who walked across the stage the week he turned 90 years old. So, we had all 18,000 people in the Colonial Life Arena on their hands giving him a round of applause as he crossed the stage. So with that said, Palmetto College has provided a lot of opportunities for students around the state. We have about 6,000 students, just under 6,000 students on our campuses and in our online programs. And why does that matter again? Why does that matter? Number one, the results are more bachelor's degrees for South Carolinians. But that matters because of job creation and economic prosperity, healthier, more educated communities, and most importantly, an improved quality of life. An improved quality of life, or maybe a difference. That difference that you can make in the lives of others. Now, as I conclude, I always want to give thanks to President Pastides. This was his dream. This was his baby that he created, and I just happened to be fortunate enough to be able to come here and help birth the baby and get it ready for kindergarten as we go forward. Many of you may remember that we owe a huge thank you to the legislature because we actually had bipartisan support. This was very impressive to me as I was interviewing for the job. Bipartisan support from the legislature to fund Palmetto College. So that was very important, and a huge thank you to all of our other state leaders that have helped make this possible. Now, I think as we go to the very last slide, with USC Palmetto College, our students have no limits. There's no limit to what students can do when they have an opportunity for those accessible, affordable, and flexible degrees around the state. Now, it is my distinct privilege to introduce you to two of our students and let them tell you their Palmetto College story. So we'll begin, ladies first, with First Sergeant Danielle Howard from USC Fort Jackson. She'll tell you about her experience, and then we'll conclude with the past president of the Columbia Capitol Rotary, Tommy Phelps. So with that said, Danielle.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Dr. Elkins already said, I'm First Sergeant Danielle Howard. I have been attending Palmetto College for right under a year now. I've been here at Fort Jackson since last year, February. I applied when I got here last year, April. I got accepted, and once I got accepted, I pretty much hit the ground running. I think I have taken a total of 7 classes since last year, May. Some have been both online and in the classroom. As someone said earlier, I'm not sure who said, I think it was the gentleman sitting here, sometimes life just gets in the way with being able to being mom, wife, and going to school. So I'm a 19-year career student. I have literally been in college for 19 years. I have 20 years in the Army this year, September. So I have been attending school. Every time I move, I'm stuck with trying to find a new school, fitting in. And maybe many of you may or may not know, a lot of the schools that we have, usually on military installations, are your kind of what they consider degree middle schools, for-profit organizations, which those degrees, great to still have a degree and to pursue continuing education, but to have a quality degree that USC Palmetto College offers is something that's more valuable for me as I get ready to retire here in the next 2 years is my plan. I plan to retire 2020, 2021, and also be able to set that positive example for my kids. I have a 15-year-old and a 3-year-old, so once I plan to retire in 2020, he will be going off to college. I'm not sure if I've convinced him to become a Gamecock. He's stuck on fence and I know he likes orange, but nonetheless, being able to complete my degree and have that to show him that it's never too late, and you just got to have perseverance and determination, and it can be done. So for me, I'm very grateful for the program, Dr. Elkins and Ms. Connie Weiss, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a scholarship that is newly, a new scholarship program that they offer to veterans and active duty military, and I had the privilege of being the recipient of that scholarship last year, and what that does is it bridges the gap between what tuition assistance covers and any out-of-pocket expenses for service members. So that was I was really grateful and thankful to be able to be the recipient of that scholarship. And so far to date, I haven't had to pay any out-of-pocket expenses besides for books. So for out-of-pocket expenses and being able to have a degree, you cannot beat it. I have 3 classes left to finish my associates, and once I finish my associates, I will have 35 semester hours to complete my bachelor's, and my goal is to complete that by 2020.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Chancellor Elkins said, I was the past president of Columbia Capital Rotary in 2012-2013. Winding down the year, it was May, Chancellor Elkins, she came to speak to the club, and at that time we had about 56 members. And that time that she was speaking to the club, I felt like I was the only person there that she was talking to. She hit me dead between the eyes, and the reason why was, I graduated from Drury High School in '83. I finished and got my associate's degree at Midlands Tech in '86, and I went to work. And I had been working for the same company for about 35 years now. There was something in me that said, hey, Tommy, you've got to finish. Had a beautiful wife that had finished at Columbia College, a summa cum laude grad. Had a daughter who was a sophomore in high school at the time, getting ready to go to USC, who is now a senior finishing a semester early. And it was like, I've got to finish. I say sometimes it takes a smart man to know his limitations. Well, I'm not saying I'm smart, but I knew that I had hit a brick wall. And so I talked with Susan. That fall of 2013, August, I went in with both eyes wide open, and being only able to take 1 or 2 classes a year, per semester, I will finish 2020 with my bachelor's degree of organizational leadership. The school is very flexible, the faculty is excellent, and if I ever need to get with Chancellor Elkins on anything, as far as being able to advocate for the Palmetto College at USC, I'm going to do it because they have become a strong team player with me, as well as Columbia, as well as the state of South Carolina. And I thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today. Happy Monday. President Carey, dear Dot, Chancellor Elkins, Bob, Sergeant Howard, thank you very much. I hope you all have a great day.
All right, thank you all so much for listening to our Palmetto College story. Now, how many of you who know somebody whose life's just gotten in the way, they hadn't been able to finish? How many of you are going to send somebody to Palmetto College? Come on, put those hands back up in the air. All right, thank you again for all that you do for Rotary and for all that you do for Columbia. It's so wonderful to be here and be a part of this club and this community. Thank you. Carrie said we'd be happy to entertain questions. I wanted to make sure that we weren't standing in the room by ourselves. So, any questions?
I have a question.
Your Dot has a question.
My question is, over the weekend, I think we had the news on Claflin College and what they're doing. That kind of buyout, that it will be an online college, is that going to give us competition, or how do you explain the difference between that degree and our degree?
That's a great question. Now, we all know that the for-profit institutions got into this business long before the traditional institutions. But I think our sergeant described it best when she said, I'm so pleased to have the quality of a USC degree. You know, I think that's probably the best answer. I mean, there are a lot of people at the table offering online degrees, and I'm sure all of them, you know, have some advantage and something to offer. But I know we got a lot of Gamecocks in the house, and I know you all realize how much that means to have a degree from the University of South Carolina. I'll tell you again, as I looked at interviewing for this position, the thing that mattered to me most was I'm like, this is perfect, because this is the flagship institution, the only system public system of higher education in the state of South Carolina. And they actually care enough to make sure that students in McCormick or Allendale have a chance to get a degree from the University of South Carolina. Now I'll tell you, that meant a lot to me as a little girl from rural Tennessee who, University of Tennessee really didn't care about the communities that we were in. So with that said, I think the quality of a USC degree speaks for itself. Carrie?
The accessibility of Wi-Fi, I mean, do you think that that is why it's taken you so long to get those folks in Allendale and McCormick and things like that? Do you think that that has a big impact?
Okay, President Carey asked about the accessibility of Wi-Fi and if that has a big impact on people being able to do online degrees or not. You know, that's, again, the value of having the USC system with a footprint and campuses all around the state is an added benefit because, you know, while we would think a lot of people might not be able to afford Wi-Fi, we do see almost everybody with a cell phone and a lot of people with internet. But if you don't happen to have internet, the great thing is we have a campus close to you. You can go to our campus, you can go to the library for free, you can access our courses from one of the campuses. Again, that's just a real strength. It's not like the University of South Carolina is just in Columbia. We've got all those locations all around the state, and any one of them is accessible by students needing to earn a degree. Other questions? One in the back and then here.
How do you get a lot of your students? I mean, how do you market your program and what's your best?
Great. Question is, how do we market our program? And we've got the Director of Marketing and Communications here with us, but he's videoing, so I'll go ahead and say that, you know, there's nothing more important than word of mouth. However, for online programs, the majority of our students find out about us online. So we spend a lot of our time and effort, a lot of our money on online digital marketing efforts. Again, we're new, we're still relatively new at just 5 years. So that first year or two, we did a lot of branding and marketing in the traditional way, with billboards and newspaper ads and radio ads. And we have some fabulous TV ads. Some wonderful TV ads. I don't know if anybody in here has actually seen any of those or not, but they were done by some USC alums that have a marketing company and just about half a dozen really, really good TV ads that air routinely. So they actually get to a lot of students too. Now, let's see, I think we had one here and then here.
I find that self-motivated courses are very difficult, but today's youth are growing up online. And I was wondering what sort of percentage of people graduate that enter this program?
You know, again, we're relatively young. We've just started 5 years ago, but we've had over 1,000 of those 2,900 who've already graduated. Now, this is the last 2 years. We're only doing the last 2 years fully online right now. We do have online courses, so if somebody had a year finished, you know, they could probably get what they need online, then get ready for that upper division, junior and senior year. So we've had, you know, a little over 1/3 of them already graduate. And again, the other thing you got to realize is most of these people are not like the two students that you just heard from. I mean, they're not sitting at home only taking courses. They're working full-time jobs and they're raising kids and they're doing all those things that adults do. So the majority of our students, average age is in the low 30s. 33, 34, 35, and again, they're going part-time, couple, 2, 3 courses a semester instead of the full 15 hours. But we have seen a good percent already graduate.
This may be totally incorrect. It seems like several years ago I saw a lot of this type of thing with Arizona State University.
Oh, yeah. So the Arizona State is one of the leaders in the country. So
did they start it?
Long years.
Did they start it?
They didn't start it. Long years ago, actually, University of Maryland University College has been at this distance business for a long time, and they really tapped into the military market 30, 40 years ago. And so they're a leader. Penn State World Campus, Penn State has been a leader for years. Arizona State is a leader, and we have hired actually a vice chancellor for e-learning who came to us from Arizona State. So I went looking for people who've been in the forefront, because we are late to the game, and we're just 5 years, 5 years since we launched. And again, Arizona State has over 100 online degrees, and they've been at it. It's been a key part of their strategy. You know, it has to be part of your university strategy to go this direction, and they've been at it for a long time, been very successful. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What is the average tuition for a student?
I didn't catch, I heard average, I didn't catch all that. The average tuition for the junior and senior year, or the completion program, it's about $20,000 for the whole package of the junior and senior year. And that's much less than, I mean, it's great when we have people who can do it the traditional way, and you live on campus and you have all those living expenses and then the higher tuition in Columbia. We did set the tuition for Palmetto College at a lower rate than Columbia. It's at the USC Aiken rate, which is one of our lowest rates in the system. Because again, we're trying to be as affordable as we can. And then, you know, obviously you don't have living expenses and those kinds of things.
Do the students qualify if they're South Carolina residents the same way they would if they were going to the actual campuses? Do they qualify for any kind of particular?
Oh, do they qualify for any kind of financial aid? Is that what you said? Yes, they're students. You can. This was another one of my questions during the interview. There's nothing on the transcript that indicates that this has been online at all. It's just a University of South Carolina degree. The operative word is the same. Anything that USC students have access to, our online students have access to. So they have the same financial aid opportunities. Actually, Sergeant Howard mentioned a new scholarship opportunity that we've just launched for the military. And I would be remiss if I didn't close. I see President Kerry standing up, but if I didn't close by saying that April 18th is our actual 5th birthday. That also happens to be Give for Garnet Day, our first ever Give for Garnet Day. And so to celebrate our 5th birthday, we are launching a campaign for a $50,000 scholarship endowment, $50,000 scholarship endowment for our 5th anniversary. So if you happen to click on for Give for Garnet Day, and you can choose Palmetto College as your choice for your gift, we appreciate it. All right, thank you very much.
President-elect Stephen, next week.
Next week, our speaker is Bill Stangler. He is the Congaree River Keeper, so it should be a good program on conservation.
All right, we should have a nice full house with spring break being over with. We'll go ahead and end with songs. Susan, thank you so much.